Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on The Flash Season 8. So this week upcoming, or this upcoming week, whichever way you want to put it, we have the fifth part, part 5, or, the finale for the Armageddon event that has kicked off this season of The Flash, and it has been one hell of an event so far, and who knows what, what they're going to throw at us this week, saying that part 4, the episode we just watched this week, well, it felt like a finale. In my opinion, it did. But this video, at least the core of it for the most part, and the reason we're making the video, actually has nothing to do with anything that we know is coming our way in the finale of Armageddon. It actually has to do with something that was dropped in part 4 that could potentially be teasing something to come. Now, we will also be talking about other things that were set up in that future timeline and whether they are things set up, to come out, come later down in the Flash's road, if you want to call it. But of course, throughout the video, be sure to let me know your general thoughts, theories, just overall opinions on everything we go over in this video. I'm always curious to read what you think of the stuff we talk about. And of course, if you're going to enjoy the video, you just want to show your support, and you're looking forward to any of the stuff that we talk about in this video, want to drop a like on the video to show your support. So of course, in part 4, we entered what was labeled as the reverse flashpoint early on into the episode by Eobard Thawne himself, which of course had Eobard pretty much slotting himself into the main events that led to Barry becoming the Flash, while also setting it up where Barry was the reverse Flash in this timeline, and after that also going on to kill Barry when he was a kid. So pretty much Eobard got everything he wanted when he sent his Christmas list off to Santa. So Santa was very generous to Eobard in that timeline, I guess. But in this reverse flashpoint, we also got moments with other characters and scenes that did not involve Barry or Eobard, though in cases they were like the topic of conversation or brought up, but in these other scenes, like some of them, like they weren't even relevant. And one of these other scenes that went on with other characters outside of Barry and Eobard that potentially teases something to come was between Iris West, not Iris West Allen in this timeline, just Iris West, with Ryan Wilder, aka the new Batwoman. So there were a couple of scenes that had Iris and Ryan Wilder in conversation, but one in particular mentioned something, well, quite interesting that many people are wondering, what it means and whether it is potentially a teaser for something to come our way in the near future. And this tease was when a lady in red is mentioned between Iris and Ryan, and that the gun Iris used in the episode could be used against her, as if this, lady in red is a speedster, and to add, an evil speedster. Now, this is all that's really mentioned about it, as it would have felt pretty random if they were to jump into like another 1, 2, 3, 4 minute scene or something like that where they discuss exactly what they meant by lady in red, and then show us a picture of this lady in red, and then news articles and everything like that explaining it. It would be random. We'd be like, why are you doing that? It has nothing to do with what we're talking about here. But surely with all of this, you don't just drop that lady in red line for no reason. I don't see the point in dropping that in that scene unless it's in some way, shape, or form relevant. And I know you can make the argument that it was to set up that the gun that's there could stop speedsters, but you could just say that it was relevant when they took on Zoom in this timeline, or just reverse flash previously. There's no real reason to say that this other random speedster potentially giving a subtle nod to this lady in red feels like they are going out of the way to potentially set something up for the show. And as you would know from the title of this video and the lead up to this conversation, many, and I guess one more for good measure, many people think this is set up for a take on Red Death on the show, with other pieces of interviews and stuff leading up to Season 8 giving us the suggestion that Red Death could possibly be a villain this season, whether it be straight after Armageddon, so maybe not episode 6, but next couple of episodes after Armageddon for a 5 or 6 episode arc, or towards the end of the season and be like the big bad towards the end of it. Now, the first thing that came to mind when all of this was being brought up during and after the episode airing was actually the future Flash Museum scene in Season 5 with young Nora, when Red Death is mentioned in passing when they were referencing, all the damage and people that were killed that Cicada did to Central City, and that, that Cicada had quite the body count, if you want to put it that way, but also that Red Death had a high body count as well. Now, I say they in regards to Red Death, as it is important to mention that they didn't have the identity of Red Death in that archive. So obviously they didn't have a gender. They don't know whether it was a male, whether it was Barnaby Jones, or it was Barbara Jones. I don't know. I was just trying to think of a female name that started with B. They didn't know specifically who it was. But then again, season 5, all those events, that was pre-Crisis, so things could change due to that, even if they had said Red Death was like a male originally. But I think most of us expected the show, if they were to do Red Death in a season as a villain, that they wouldn't make him a hybrid of Bruce Wayne and Barry Allen, or, you know, Batman and the Flash like it is in the comics. And I was actually hoping that they wouldn't anyway, and my main reason for that is that it does give the shows some creative liberty to do what they want. You know, give the backstory they want, do all the lead up, give them the powers necessarily that they want to give him, and it also potentially adds some mystery as to who the person in the suit could be if they want to go down that route. Now, the thing that also needs to be added is that though Iris and Ryan do reference a speedster lady in red, suggesting Red Death, but also saying it's a female, there is the possibility that it is only in that timeline, that future, where a female becomes Red Death, and maybe it was someone like Jesse Quick or something like that. Like maybe they know the identity, but they just reference Lady in Red, just like how they'd say Savitar, or they'd say Zoom, you know, everything like that. And the reason I throw that into the mix, that it could be anyone, is just that it opens up the door for Red Death to be anyone. And that it doesn't narrow down the mystery to who Red Death could be if they go down that route where we don't know who they are for a certain amount of time, and it's meant to be this, well, who is it? Who is it? Who are they going to be? And then the reveal is actually something special. I think we all like a mystery around who a certain character could be and maybe could not be, as long as it's worth doing. I hate when there's a mystery for the sake of being a mystery, but if the mystery works and it's relevant, then I'm for it. And, you know, just if the identity reveal is important to the story and what they're going for. So if that's going to be the case with Red Death, if they do the character, then I'm all for it. If it's just like some person's behind the mask that we don't know, it's a character we don't know, then what's the point of keeping them hidden? You know what I mean? Now, it needs to be added, and we've brought this up in a couple of other videos since this little piece of information came out from Warner Brothers and the CW, but Armageddon is supposed to give birth to the number two new villains. One who will bring a bit of like a horror genre feel to the show, with one who could also be this horror feeling villain as well, potentially going to be a speedster based off suggestions from the showrunner Eric Wallace in interviews in the lead up to season 8. So I don't know if we're going to get teasers to that in this finale, because as I've mentioned previously as well in videos, we go on like a 2.5, 11-week break roughly after episode 5 before episode 6. And that's just due to the CW schedule and it being like absolutely crazy. Like, they've got so much stuff to air, so unfortunately the Flash has fallen victim to the fact that they have to finish the seasons of some shows which only have like 5 or 6 episodes left to air. So the Flash is falling victim to that, which, you know, as long as it airs, that's fine. We just have to wait till March for it to come back. So they might give us a tease in this week's episode as to who potentially one of these villains could be. I'm not too sure, but they're meant to be birthed from the ashes of Armageddon, so Armageddon's meant to cause them. But back to Red Death. If Red Death is a female and is a lady in red, who are they? So I think there's two options which I've suggested or like hinted at maybe in this video, and one that I've just straight up said. Now the one that is the easy one to go to if you want to make it somewhat similar to what happens in the comics, but obviously you don't do Bruce Wayne, I guess it's a female version, is that it is like an evil Kate Kane, who obviously Kate Kane was Batwoman before Ryan Wilder. So that could be the way that they go down there. One like issue I've seen people say was like, well, Ruby Rose played Kate Kane, so shouldn't it be Ruby Rose? And the answer is, well, on some multiple Earths, they go multiverse with Red Death, and that would be the case. But if you look at like Barry Allen, Clark Kent, and characters like that, they look different on different Earths. Lex Luthor, like they look different. Lois Lane, they look different on different Earths. You don't have to look the same. Now, some characters look the same, but some don't. So they could just say that Kate Kane looks like this random new actress that we brought in on this other Earth. They could easily go down that route if they want to, because Red Death in the comics is like multiversal in a sort of twisted way. So I think if they're going to go down that route, they would do that with Kate Kane. Obviously, I did say Jesse Quick. I mean, I don't know if they'd get the actress back, but Jesse Quick's always an option. And one interesting thing I thought would be, you know, this could be like a sort of like a take on Savitar, but a female direction. What if it's Iris? I mean, Iris is meant to have a storyline this year, which is meant to be like based off the time sickness and everything like that. What if they did some weird thing where like the female Red Death is Iris? I don't know, is that a weird twist? I'm not too sure. Now, obviously, you can add any other suggestions you have in the comments in regards to that. But also on the other side, if it's a male and it's not Bruce Wayne, who is it? Obviously, they're not going to do another evil Barry because, hello, season 3 Savitar. We don't need that again. So if it's a male, who could it be? Now, we have 2 returning characters this season from previous seasons who are dead. Now, one in the form of Eddie Thawne, we know is appearing in a flashback episode, but we don't know what they do with him going forward. And of course, I think most of us would want to see him come back as Cobra Blue if he's a villain. But if they don't want to do that, which is fair enough, it's their show, they can do what they want. Could they make him Red Death? Could they easily make him Red Death? It's a possibility. Another returning character who we know is coming back for at minimum 2 episodes is Ronnie Raymond. He's dead, or at least we're led to believe he's dead. Could Ronnie be Red Death? I mean, Ronnie starts with an R, Red Death, maybe. It's a possibility. Anything is. And the other one that's interesting is maybe like someone like Hunter Zolomon. Like, I know you might be like, oh, well, these are all characters you're saying, but I think that adds to it. Like, if it's someone, and this is like the character's meant to be like a twisted character. If it's someone that we've known that we're led to believe has died, that could be like twisted in whatever realm or place that they've gone after they potentially or supposedly died, then yeah, I think that would work. So imagine Hunter Zolomon, that maybe he didn't become Black Flash, but he got taken somewhere else or something like that and got twisted enough where he becomes this even bigger serial killer than he was as Zoom. That could be pretty cool. But as I said, if you have any suggestions, let me know in the comments. Now, just a couple of other things that were in the future timeline and just how they can, you know, potentially be relevant going forward. Ryan Choi's Atom. He's in the suit for like less than a minute. Surely he comes back. Like I think I've said this previously in my review, but surely he has to come back. Like, you might be saying, oh, well, they just reused a Flash suit, which I think makes sense. Ryan Choi made the Flash suit. So, of course, his Atom suit, you know, he'd want it, you know, if he had some sort of help in the design and stuff like that, they'd make it very similar to that. But also, they like added detail. Like, they added like a full-on belt and stuff we don't even really see in the episode. So, and those, even if it's like a spare suit, they're not cheap. You just wouldn't throw it away and make an Atom suit for him to be on screen for less than a minute. So he has to come back. I'm not saying he's going to be a main character. Like, I'm not saying that at all. But I'd be shocked if we don't see Ryan Choi back as the Atom in some way, shape, or form. I'm not saying this season, but even like crossovers or other shows and stuff like that. So, yeah. And obviously, the random Marcus dude. Now, he was the guy standing next to Ryan Choi at the party. Now, we know the actor and stuff is like Andre Sotos or something like that, but this Marcus is possibly the Marcus that Alex Danvers was trying to set Caitlin up with. The issue is that Caitlin wasn't at the party, so I know Frost was in the bathroom having fun, but Caitlin wasn't at the party, so anyway. Maybe he's Red Death. As I said, the possibilities are endless. Marcus is Red Death. There you go, it's confirmed. Now, in regards to other changes with the timeline and stuff going on post-Armageddon, it's going to be interesting because there's more changes going on in Armageddon or due to Armageddon than Flashpoint. And we know the changes that happened when Barry returned from Flashpoint. So what happens after Armageddon? And the thing is that we have this massive break after episode 5. So we're going to have this torturous way to find out what happened. But like, for example, that Eddie Thawne flashback episode, maybe that shows some of the changes. Maybe post-Armageddon, like Eddie didn't die the way that he died in season 1 that we saw. I'm not too sure. It's going to be very interesting. And I wonder if at the end of episode 5 or in episode 5 we get any suggestions as to what some of the changes could be that happen. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show support. Let me know in the comment section down below your various opinions on everything we go over, or that we went over in this video, sorry. I'm always curious to read them. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.